Alright, everybody. Oh boy. So, it's been a while since we really talked about Trump. You know, Trump's not really been that politically relevant for a while. I mean, he comes up in conversation about politics, but for the most part, he's not really at the forefront of the political conversation. It's more so the Trump, copycats in the Republican Party who have really been drawing the most attention from my coverage and from most of the left's coverage. However, Donald Trump, the guy who incited a attempted coup on the capital of our country because he lost the election, and then after failing that coup, proceeded to argue that the election was stolen, up until, well, to this day, he argues the election was stolen. And is also under investigation for stealing and taking home, classified documents and not cooperating with I believe it was the Department, it was like the Department of Justice, like the DOJ or something, that was investigating him. I think there was an FBI raid on his Mar-a-Lago suite, or Mar-a-Lago resort, to find the stuff that he was hiding, yeah, pretty sussy stuff. We could go down the list. Donald Trump is one of the most storied political figures, currently being looked at, with one of the most fucked up backstories you can really look at. I mean, we've gone over it for a long time. It's crazy to talk about Trump so past tense like this, Hypers in chat if it feels weird to talk about Trump in past tense in this way. It really does feel odd, doesn't it? Anyway, unfortunately, Donald Trump's political career isn't necessarily over. He still has a significant amount of political influence, and not only that, but as far as we can tell, he definitely plans to run again in 2024, and we're gonna have to deal with that. We're gonna have to fucking deal with it. And guess what? Donald Trump is starting to hype up his campaign stuff. It's the first day of the second month of the year before the election, and you better believe if Trump's going to be really running in 2024, he's really going to start ramping up his campaign stuff from this point going forward. And, I guess he started this off with an interesting video post. Now, I actually haven't seen this yet. I've just been told it's really, really bad and that I should react to it, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. This tweet was posted by Eli Ehrlich, who is, I believe, currently suing Blair White, saying, "Trump just released one of the most terrifying videos I've ever seen of him. He's boasting that he would prosecute many of my colleagues and me for simply speaking on trans issues to students. He would also ban basic medical care and remove federal funding from trans programs." Looks like the big man himself is jumping on board with the fight the gay groomer narrative. Let's take a look.
Here's my plan to stop the chemical, physical, and emotional mutilation of our youth. On day one, I will revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender-affirming care.
Basically, this means that Donald Trump on day one would be rolling back all the changes that Biden made that would help to protect the rights for trans people to access gender-affirming care. I need you guys to understand that across the entire country, like state by state, cruel? Well, you have to understand, guys, the Republicans rely very heavily on, beating the shit out of you and then basically trying to argue that you're a massive piece of shit for wanting them to stop. That's basically the best allegory I can give for what the right does to you here in America. They will beat the only allegory is like someone going up to you, beating the ever-living shit out of you and taking your wallet, and then you say, "Stop, stop!" They get really offended and call you an asshole and cruel for telling them to stop. How could you, why would you want to fight against me helping you by beating the shit out of you and taking your wallet? That's basically the level of, yeah, it's very condescending. They know what they're doing. It's meant to trigger the left. When they call, a civil rights bill cruel, it's to trigger the left. That's why they're doing it.
So-called gender-affirming care. Ridiculous. A process that includes giving kids puberty blockers, mutating their physical appearance, and...
Okay, we got a couple things to do over there. So first off, puberty blockers are agreed upon by the medical consensus at the moment to be the correct response to gender dysphoric youth pre-puberty if you want them to be able to transition better, typically speaking. And mutation is very much not the correct use of words there. Just very, very much not the correct use of words. Just definitionally speaking, that is not what a mutation is. Trump has a way with words, but he has a way with words with stupid people. God, I really miss covering Trump. It's been a while, hasn't it, chat?
Ultimately performing surgery on minor children. Can you believe this?
This doesn't happen. I believe that, like, some under 18, like, trans men have gotten top surgery, like gender-affirming top surgery. But that's in the case of, like, 16, 17-year-olds with, like, prolonged support from, like, doctors and physicians and psychological professionals. Like, you to get any type of gender-affirming surgery as a minor in America, and by minor, I mean 16 or 17 at the youngest here. In the vast majority of cases, there may be some very edge cases where someone younger was able to get it, but like in the vast majority of these cases, to get that far into treatment, adult trans people have to spend years with like therapists and doctors getting prescribed hormones, living as the gender that they identify with publicly for like a fairly long period of time. Like, this isn't the kind of thing that to get that surgery, especially under 18, can be like a passing phase. This is not a passing phase. The right really relies on the idea that people just sort of assume that a bunch of young kids are having this passing phase of thinking maybe they're trans, making irreversible, massive mistakes, and then regretting it later in life. They're relying on basically guilt-tripping a whole bunch of people into thinking that is a risk of all gender-affirming care, or any gender-affirming care. It's not true. These procedures, these medicines, etc., these are all carried out with very high levels of medical and scientific scrutiny.
I will sign a new executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age.
So this is really just no different than what the right has done for a very long time. You see, the right relies on an uneducated youth, right? This means anyone under 18 of any age is like anyone under 18 of any age. You're not. Let's re-listen to that again because he jumbled the words a little weird there.
Instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age.
Yes, so basically what he's saying here actually is even worse. Basically, he is arguing that in no way would the state be able to acknowledge the existence or validity of LGBT people at any age, particularly in regards to transition. Essentially, what he's arguing here is the full dissolution of any legal recognition of trans people on day one. Yeah, he wants to outright ban you from society if you're trans. This needs to be the election where trans people are coming out in droves to stop this motherfucker from getting elected. Or re-elected, I should say. That they need you guys got to come out hard. Everybody's got to come out hard against this motherfucker because trans rights are not going to exist anywhere near the level they exist now if Trump gets re-elected. I believe him, okay? I believe that he'll do these things day one. And if he does, these are changes unlike anything any of these states have been able to do. Maybe Ohio has gotten this worse. Ron DeSantis would be worse. I honestly don't think so at this. Honestly, I think they'd be the same at this point. I think Trump realizes what he has to do to keep the train going. Right now, he's kind of aping DeSantis's bit. Like, this is DeSantis's, line that he's aping here. Trump has the charisma and the following that DeSantis doesn't. If Trump can take from DeSantis what works, DeSantis followers will go to Trump. You have to remember, most people that are still supporting the Republicans at this point are pretty lacking of any level of like humanity or moral standing, right? Like if you're still supporting the party that refuses to denounce the actual attempted coup on the Capitol, then, and most of those people still try to argue and deflect and say, actually, that was Antifa. And then half of them will say, actually, no, all of them were based. They should have killed all the politicians. Half of them, say one thing, half say the other. These aren't very good people, right? I don't think that Trump being a bad person is making them not vote Trump.
I will then ask Congress to permanently stop federal taxpayer dollars from being used to promote or pay for these procedures and pass a law.
I'm pretty certain the only case where that would be happening is like trans military. Like that would be most of the trans people would be affected by that, right? Like this is just mostly affecting armed forces. This is no different than when Trump basically was it day one? It was like really early on, banned trans people from the military. So yeah, attacking our veterans. So nice. Love to see that, Trump. Good to see you're attacking our armed forces.
Prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. It'll go very quickly. I will declare that any hospital...
Let's rewind it.
Prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. It'll go very quickly.
So he says very quickly, any form of gender-affirming care for anyone under 18 would be banned in all 50 states very quickly.
I will declare that any hospital or healthcare provider that participates in the chemical or physical mutilation of minor youth will no longer...
You know what we should do? For the thumbnail of this video, we're editing the Hitler hair and the Hitler mustache onto Trump and a Nazi armband onto his arm for the thumbnail of this video. Full on. We're going full on calling Trump a Nazi. Full 2016 SJW, calling Trump a Nazi. I mean, this is full-on fascist rhetoric. He's talking about trying to exterminate a group of people from the society, and you can try to argue that's not what it is, but trans people not being allowed to exist as they are, and there being legal consequences to that and legal crackdowns on that identity, that's the definition of genocide. That's like if the top of the roller coaster is the genocide part, like where they're actually killing people, then we're at the part where it's not like a nice steady grade anymore. We're starting to get steep. Like things are getting pretty fucking steep at this point, you know?
Longer meet federal health and safety standards for Medicaid and Medicare and will be terminated from the program immediately. Furthermore,
I mean, Republicans attacking everything that has to do with like providing care to Americans that rely on like social safety, social services has always been a thing. So this is not necessarily anything new for Republicans, but him out and saying he's targeting the trans community is pretty vile, of course, and pretty outwardly evil. That's nice. Remember when he said that he loved his trans? Where do we have the Trump clip where he talked about how he loves his trans followers? Let's look at this. President Trump wants to look like he supports LGBTQ people.
Buttigieg. Don't you think it's just great to see the fact that you've got a guy there on the stage with his husband, and it's normal? It's not even seen as a big deal.
I think it's absolutely fine. I do.
as your president, I will do everything in my power to protect our LGBTQ citizens from the violence and oppression of a hateful foreign ideology.
What he meant by that was Islam. This is back when Trump was trying to... You have to understand, back then, shitting on Muslims was like the thing. Like, his whole thing was shitting on Mexicans and Muslims, right? And so he was able to rally a whole bunch of people to hate on Muslims by saying, hey, I love LGBT people, and Muslims want to kill all the LGBT people, so I want to protect the LGBT community from this horrible foreign agenda. But now, 4 years later, you have to understand that now the narrative is that the LGBT people are the threat that the right needs to rally against. So now he's doing a rant about how he's going to protect people, protect the kids from the LGBT. I love, isn't it nice to be able to see with the internet and with videos that just kind of chronicleize all of this, being able to just like go back and see the evolution of the grift, the evolution of the narrative. There isn't an honest bone in these people's bodies. It really is lovely to just have The video evidence right there in 4K. This isn't 4K, but still.
I will support the creation of a private right of action for victims to sue doctors who have unforgivably performed these procedures on minor children.
So this is basically for parents to be able to sue doctors that give their kids any form of gender-affirming care, and to basically scare doctors in general. Even if this has no effect and never really happens, this is meant to scare doctors from opting to supply gender-affirming care, because there's a possibility they could be sued for it. That is the goal of this change, to make it so that doctors are scared to give gender-affirming care because they could be sued. It's a deterrent from any doctor, anywhere in the country, anywhere, providing gender-affirming care. Minor children, that's redundant. Like I said, Donald Trump is a good speaker to stupid people. They know the word minor and they know the word children. You double those words up, and the emphasis on the idea that these kids are being mutilated by these LGBT lefty genders are, it's scarier sounding, you know?
The Department of Justice will investigate Big Pharma and the big
super
hospital
kid.
networks to determine whether they have deliberately covered up horrific long-term side effects of sex transitions in order to get rich at the expense.
My favorite thing ever is that Republicans absolutely love Big Pharma. Big Pharma is one of the biggest industries that drives money and wealth and power in our country that there is. The Republicans fucking rely on the success of Big Pharma, okay? They love Big Pharma. However, they will shit talk it rhetorically when it is on very particular issues. The vaccines, because the Republican Party are anti-vax now, and anything to do with gender-affirming care. They won't talk about how Big Pharma basically jacks up the price of insulin to an insane amount, so much so that, hey guys, if you cross the border from I live about 30 miles away from Mexico, go to the nearest border town to where I live. You go to a doctor's office or a pharmacy or wherever on the American side of the border to get some insulin, $350 per vial. That's roughly the average, last I heard. You cross the border over into Mexico and go to a pharmacy for that same vial of insulin, like 30 or 40 bucks. It's legitimately like 30 or 40 fucking bucks. Do you know why? Because those companies don't have the ability to jack up the prices the same way in Mexico. They are just jacking up the prices artificially. That is it. Because they know they can. You have to buy insulin. They have a imprisoned market, essentially.
Of vulnerable patients, in this case,
By the way, if you actually wanted to fight Big Pharma, doing harm to people who've gotten any form of gender-affirming care, you would make it so that Big Pharma was forced to give those gender-affirming care treatments for free. You would force them to give hormones out for free, to give gender-affirming surgeries like top surgeries and bottom surgeries for free. That would be the real middle finger to Big Pharma.
Very vulnerable. We will also investigate whether Big Pharma or others have illegally marketed hormones and puberty blockers which are in no way licensed or approved for this use.
That is not true. So unless Donald Trump is going to change laws to make it so those medicines aren't licensed for that use, these are all lies. I mean, yeah, they're obviously lies. Puberty blockers and all of these hormones have literally been, by the entire scientific community, agreed upon as the treatment for gender dysphoria. And as a safe thing for taking. So yeah, it's just, you have to understand though, guys, Republicans don't care if their politicians lie. This is better for them. They can't win if they're honest.
My Department of Education will inform states and school districts that if any teacher or school official suggests to a child that they could be trapped in the wrong body, they will be faced with severe consequences, including potential civil rights violations for sex discrimination and the elimination of federal funding.
basically utter devastation of any teacher who validates the gender identity of any student in any school in the country. Defunding the school, firing, civil charges, fines, and more. Just destroying the life of any teacher who validates the identity of trans people.
As part of our new credentialing body for teachers, we will promote positive education about the nuclear family.
Well, that's the end of the clip. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a final statement on this video, okay? Fucking vote. Fucking vote. You guys remember when DJ Mule made that really shitty hit piece video on me, and he talked about how my takes about how you should vote for Biden to fight against Trump, or a bunch of bad things are going to happen? And he's like, well, these bad things happened anyway, so turns out it wouldn't have been much different overall. How's that looking now? With Donald Trump now wanting to push those laws that were at one point, right now are just a red state thing, that are kind of segregated to those red states, to an entire national thing. Vote, okay? Do not take the Bernie or Buster route. Do not doomer. Fucking vote, and vote against Donald Trump. Vote against whatever Republican it is that ends up running against whatever Democrat it is. Vote blue, no matter fucking who. Because no matter who it is, it's better than whoever it is that's going to be running with the Republicans. At this point, the Republicans are outright declaring war on the existence of trans people. Scary shit. They want you dead, so vote.